Hey everybody. So today I'm going to take you through a Goblin Siege and how to deal with it. On the right side of your screen there you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more than that armored Goblin Siegers coming in. There's also snatchers on the left side of the screen, which you will see I think like 6 or 9 of, a bunch. So this is a coordinated, these are snatchers coming for the Dwarven children and also armored combatants coming to just maraud. And so I have it paused here as I'm planning what to do and showing, watch the mouse on your screen to see how I'm dealing with it. This is not as scary, four snatchers in a column there, I see. So the first thing I'm doing is moving all of my dwarves to an underground burrow, which is far from this action. And the reason I was clicking, you can see right there, hide underground. That is my instruction. In the burrow, and everybody is in that burrow, and I'm sending them down into the mines to get out of this fight. The reason I clicked on that one dwarf was because he was closest to the goblins and he wasn't moving yet. So I was like, that's why I found those last that weren't even assigned, and I clicked him in, and I was like, yeah, no, you need to move. And I'm saving, because, save during sieges, especially with the nice Steam ability to go back and branch off saves. Go for it. Don't play. That's my opinion. A lot of people think poorly of save scummers, but I say have the best fortress you can. So now the goblins are coming down. They're firing arrows. The dwarves are now fleeing. This siege, as you can see, the rectangles at the top of the screen. There's a big rectangle, that's the bridge, and then the smaller ones are actually cage traps, and that is the crux. This is Dave's cost-effective goblin siege defense, and all you have to do is put cage traps everywhere, and then pull your dwarves underground. And the, dwarves will not trigger the cage traps, of course, but they will lead the goblins into the cage traps. And then get your squads ready. Assign them as efficiently as possible to kill all goblins that are not in cages. Now, this is important. Soldiers, for some reason, when they're assigned to kill a goblin, will continue to try to kill that goblin while the goblin is safely in a cage and they cannot be hurt. And so it will result in this frozen stalemate where the dwarf is outside like, I can't get my weapon into between the cage bars, so the goblin's safe, but it's a little glitch or a quirk of the engine. But so what you are going to want to be doing during the sieges, and I'm targeting right here, you see I'm clicking on the goblins and assigning them in my squad in the queue menu, but then other goblins are already in my cage traps, so I have to make sure that these are not assigned because that will distract the soldiers. They're gonna bug out basically and try to kill these invincible already captured goblins. So that's most of the management, is you're going to be getting your squads ready and assigning them to attack. You see in the list of other creatures, have them attack the invaders, not the caged prisoners. And as long as you do that, as long as your dwarves are ready and they have gear, they have armor, weapons, ammunition if they need it, they'll take care of it. I'm looking at this very hurt dwarf, ability to stand lost, no treatment scheduled, of course. So we are going to lose about fewer than 10 dwarves, but something around 5%. Is that right? If I have 200 dwarves and I lose 8, I think, and sorry, make fun of me in the comments if I'm wrong, but we shaved off a little bit of the population repelling this, but the result is that we end up with, I think by the end of this, actually 7 of the goblins have tripped cage traps and are just now my prisoners. I tried to sell them to the merchant because sometimes the merchant will buy a caged yak or a caged crow. I did try to goblin traffic the captives of war, which is pretty dark, but Dwarf Fortress is Dwarf Fortress is an extremely grim, dark universe. If you don't understand that yet, you need to understand it. There are going to be slave traders. There are going to be intricate plots that end in someone innocent dying, things like that. If you played RimWorld, you're also familiar with, organ harvesting. It's a grim, dark, it's a very brutal world. This is my level. This is the safe level. You can see there's beds, there's craft, there's a big stockpile, so my dwarves can chill down here and be fine while the invaders turn to cage prisoners. And so, and there you go, I'm saving 6 invaders left. So this is half mopped up. But the problem is that a few of these goblins are pretty agile or, step past their captured friends, and they're still making trouble. So there's actually a few in this stockpile. They made it below ground. After this invasion, I beefed up my defenses because they got in too deep. But I do send my squads, and because it's a fortress of 200, I send 50 guys, and they end up Jensen ladies. There you see all my different squads being assigned to the ones that are still free, and they will mop them up. This is actually an 11-minute video. That's how long the siege takes, and I'll leave the footage in there. I invite you to have a look and see how I resolve this, and you'll confirm in the final seconds that every invader is caged, has been neutralized or is killed, and I end up down, I think, at like 192. The main thing about sieges is that it will cause like a negative feeling cascade in the whole, like everybody who sees somebody die, everybody who lost somebody, of course, every dwarf that, or especially, I have, from the last siege, I have like PTSD cases where they're like injured veterans of these, and they can still work, but they have very poor mood, and you have to be gentle with them. You have to take, you kind of like give them a nice bedroom, give them, nice food, like they're emotionally damaged by the combat. So, sieges are not fun games. It's grimdark and it imitates reality. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Feel free to watch out the rest of this. I wonder if YouTube will penalize me if I'm not talking, if it's just perfect silence for the next half of it. But there are 11 minutes of footage. That's really what I would, and maybe I'll just keep talking and I might actually make it to 11 minutes, the more I think about this. So, cages. So you need some kind of metal. I don't think you can build wooden cages. I don't remember. Maybe you can. I don't remember. You have to look into that. But cages is the function of search for work orders. And then cage traps. I think all you need to set a cage trap is a cage and then a mechanism. And they work. I mean, they're actually kind of OP. They're overpowered because they will never, as far as I know, malfunction on a dwarf. But 100% of the time, if an animal, if anything dwarf size steps that is not allowed or that counts as trappable, it will be trapped. And then you just have it. You can move it between stockpiles. This is what I'll talk about for the last 4 minutes. So what do you do with your prisoners? I already mentioned the very dark, arguably some would say unforgivable thing where I was trying to sell them to the traders, but the traders don't want goblins. Goblins are just trouble. All they'll do, as soon as they're out of the cage, is go blah, 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 and run around and make trouble. So they're not even useful, like a yak or even a blue jay would be. So I'm not even sure if they were counting against what the trader would accept. So like the way it works when you're trading is it'll do the value of the cage plus the value of anything in it. But some of my goblins were so low, it was like 25 gold. I wasn't sure if it was a terrible cage plus 0 gold for the goblin, or if it was like a nice cage and the goblin was bringing down the value. They're like, oh, I want this cage, but I wish it didn't have a goblin in it. So you can't really sell them. I have 2 areas for dealing with prisoners of war. And again, it's not like RimWorld where you can kind of brainwash or rehabilitate people into your community. As far as I know, these goblins are just going to be troublemakers. So I'm still mopping up the last 2. Oh, this is actually, so one of my dwarves is kind of dying. I think we save him, but he's very injured, it said, in that river up there. And we're still trying to get, they're still dealing with the second one that's below level. So it takes a while for the response time. I'm checking on the response time to try to get as few dwarves injured as possible. But so when you have goblins in cages, mostly I feel weird saying it, but mostly what you're going to want to do is execute them for their stuff, for their gear, because they're going to have weapons and like a nice stuff that your dwarves can use instead. And, they came here to just kill and pillage. So, it's all told, it's fair. It's, fair's fair, kind of turnabout's fair play. But so what I've devised, and this is a video, so I can't actually show you. It's not a live thing. Wow, I did actually talk through all of it. That's great. But what I devised is basically a pit. So pits are important zones. You put it over open area, and then the dwarves will, when you assign something to the pit, the dwarves will bring it if they can and drop it in. And you can do that with like animals, like 1Z level, they won't be hurt and they can be kept, in a pen or something. But what you can do is you can build a pit that goes down 10Z levels and has big spikes at the bottom or, damaging traps, and then more cage traps in case, they still somehow survive that. And what you do is you just pit the goblins. You bring the cage close to the pit so that they can't resist arrest and like struggle their way free or anything. And the dwarves will just toss them in that pit and they will fall 10Z stories and hopefully die. And if not, they'll be caged again and you can just keep doing that. And again, like, I feel like I'm going to get a complaint for this awful things that I'm doing to goblins, but they started it in Dwarf Fortress, and this is very standard. This is how you process prisoners of war. To my knowledge, leave it in the comments if you have a more humane way of dealing. I would be willing to bet that no other Dwarf Fortress player has something better. And in fact, if you look up like ways of dealing with prisoners, you'll find things like drowning machines, which is also something that I'm considering because I have a waterfall system that has like a sewer system that fills. Very dark, but that's what you got to do. So, I mean, it's a very different game if you play with enemies off. That's all I'll say. It can be a peaceful, nice game, but very grimdark otherwise. It looks like I only have about a minute left. So I'll just say, everybody, thank you for your questions. Thank you for listening to these videos. And yeah, just please like and subscribe and keep watching. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun playing Dwarf Fortress again. Thanks, everybody. Good night.